This lesson is on frequency distributions. A frequency distribution, or just a frequency table is what we typically call it, displays the number of values that fall within a certain category or a class interval. So when you create the interval, you want to make sure that you put the same amount of values in each of those intervals. So for instance, if my first interval is 0 to 3, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3, that's 4 values. My next one needs to be another 4 values. That would be 4, 5, 6, 7. So what I see often when people are trying to create their class intervals, which we typically want between 5 and 15, they're going to maybe say 0 to 2, and they say, well, that's only 2 numbers, and so my next one's going to be 3 to 4. But 0 to 2 is 0, 1, and 2, so that's 3 values, so this has to be 3 to 5. And the reason that we want them to be equal is because we're going to use those frequency distributions to create something like a bar graph called a histogram, and we want to make sure that we can accurately compare the data in that histogram. So we're going to make a frequency distribution together, or a frequency table together. And so looking at this data, which is the survey results for shoppers who were asked how many cups of coffee they drink in an average week, we're going to create a frequency table from that. Now I know that my value goes from 0 all the way up to 18. So obviously I don't want to say 0 to 18 because then there's just one bar. There's nothing really to compare. So let's go ahead. I know I've already sort of set it up for 6 different ones here. So I'm going to say 0 to 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3, that's 4 of them. And then 4 to 7. Again, that's 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8 to 11. 8, 9, 10, 11. And then 12 to 15. And then 16 to 19. So even though I don't have a 19, I needed to go all the way up so that 18 was included. Now when you make a frequency table, you're just going to go through your data and put a tally. So for 0, I'm going to put a tally here. For 16, I'm going to put a tally in the 16 to 19. For 5, etc. So I'm going to finish this off camera so that it's not boring for you. So I have tallied all of my values and found that in 0 to 3, there were 2 people, so that is the one that's going to go in the frequency. From 4 to 7, there were 3 shoppers. From 8 to 11, there were 8 shoppers. And when you're tallying, remember when you get to that 5th one, it's beneficial to cross off that one so that when you're counting, it makes it easier. 5 plus 3, rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5 plus 3 is way faster. And then there were 3 here and 2 here, and I would always strongly encourage you to then add up your frequency totals and make sure that it's how many you started with. So I know here there are 18 values total, so my frequency should add to 18, and if I add those up, I do get 18, so I know I didn't miss one or count something twice. So for this question, I know that the lowest amount of miles is 1, and the highest amount of miles is 32. And I know that I have to encompass everything between those 2 values. And it's important when you're dealing, this one it's a little bit easier because I've had those values rounded to the nearest mile. But if I didn't, and someone could have 4.2 miles or 4.1 miles, etc., sometimes there might be some overlap or you're not really sure if someone goes exactly 4 miles. For instance, if I had a 0 to 4, I couldn't have my next one be 5 to 9 because what if it was 4.5 miles? So sometimes when we write those miles traveled, we're going to say 0 up to 5, but not including 5. So if I have 5 exactly, then it's going to go in my next one. So 5 all the way up to 10, but not including 10. Now that I've finished creating my intervals, I'm going to go ahead and tally all of my values. I have completed tallying all of my values, and now I'm going to turn those into their frequencies. So 3, 5, 5, 3, 1, 0, and 1. And it is important to put that 0 there because we're going to now turn these into histograms, and we're going to want to know that there was nothing in that interval. We can't just skip it.